two women. This guy is from either Dallas or Houston. I'm not really familiar. I am familiar just because of the car scene. He used to be heavy in the car scene. He used to like do these really cool mods on his trucks and on his cars. And he had this big green truck, I remember specifically. But he came up over the years. He did a big run. He had his family involved and all these other things. And then he kind of went to the left quickly, as you could see from the video. So let's get into it.
A popular YouTuber once known for his family vlogging.
Look, come on, Dad. Come on. Can't get over here. My car went out there.
Is now accused of kidnapping two women. But the story doesn't end there. Authorities say the Texas-based content creator fled the United States by booking a one-way ticket and hopping on a nearly 20-hour flight all the way to the Middle East. So how did a man with millions of social media followers end up charged with aggravated kidnapping? Well, it all began on November 22nd. That's when a woman exchanged numbers with 26-year-old Corey Pritchett Jr. The woman told authorities the following day she and another woman met up with Pritchett. They did some pretty harmless activities like working out, ATV riding, then bowling. But it was at the bowling alley where things took an intense turn. While there, the two women felt like something was off when Pritchett and his two friends started acting strange. The women told police they were repeatedly looking around, seemed on edge, and were acting suspicious. The unnamed women told police they learned Pritchett and his friends were having issues with another group that was there at the bowling alley. So they reportedly told Pritchett if he continued acting that way, he should just leave with his friends. Pritchett in turn stepped out with his friends, but never returned, leaving the women behind. After some time, the women texted him because they left their stuff in his car. So he asked them to meet at the H-E-B grocery store parking lot to get their stuff back. When the two women showed up, he switched gears and offered to drive them home, and they said yes. But according to the women, Pritchett flipped the script once again. During that drive, he reportedly began acting erratically and skipped what was supposed to be the route to drop them off. The women say Pritchett claimed someone was after him and started making phone calls. Then Pritchett began driving at high speeds, going past 100 miles per hour. The women claim he pulled out a gold-colored handgun and started waving it around the sunroof while still driving erratically fast, then began firing off rounds out of the car window. One of the women reportedly told Pritchett to take her back to her apartment and try to calm him down by asking him to pray with them. But he still continued driving crazy fast down the I-10 highway. Pritchett then made a video call to a woman reportedly saved in his phone under future wife. He asked the woman on the call, "If I had the perfect opportunity and was in the middle of nowhere where no one could hear them scream, should I just go ahead and do it?" And the woman on the line reportedly responded, yes. For the women in Pritchett's car, though, they were seemingly in fear of their lives. The women told police that Pritchett told them, "I'm gonna F y'all and then kill y'all." By this point, the women said they were texting one another during all of this. But authorities say Pritchett then started pointing the gun at them and took their phones away so they couldn't communicate with each other.
Mans went off the deep end. Lee went off the deep end. Hold on. I wish there was a little like video, or maybe talking about who are the girls still gone? Oh shit! Am I getting ahead of myself? Like, they're not really saying.
According to police, Pritchett then pulled off the highway onto the shoulder of I-10 near Sealy, Texas. Seemingly with a change of heart, he told the women to get out of his car, telling them this is your only opportunity. One of the women said she tried to get her phone back, but wasn't able to. Then Pritchett drove off, leaving them stranded on the side of the road at night. The women told police they spent more than an hour along the side of the highway before they were able to flag down a driver who called 911. But clues pieced together by investigators would help corroborate their story. One of the women had the Life 360 app on her phone, and screenshots, which included timestamps and the route they took, supported the victim's story of what happened. Pritchett was ID'd through his driver's license and social media pages. But when investigators reached out to him, his phone was no longer in service. Instead, they found out through TikTok that he was planning to move to Dubai.
I moved to Dubai. The people just want feel so good out here. My kids, listen. So I'm having more kids, right? With my future wife, for sure. And Aiden, my kids are gonna be homeschooled, bro. It's getting real wicked in the United States. A lot of y'all not paying attention because a lot of y'all sleep.
Wicked. Nigga. Wicked. Nigga's wicked, brother. Seems like you're part of the problem, sir. Am I tripping? What the hell?
The news outlets are not speaking on a lot of that's going on there. It's gonna get real over there. Y'all might think I'm lying. Y'all might think I'm just talking. Y'all seen other people probably saying it. But you know, people don't believe until it hit the fan. That's one thing I noticed about most people in the United States. They want to party, live life, until it hit the fan. When it hit the fan, then everybody, oh, it was scattered. No.
But according to the FBI, they confirmed Pritchett bought a one-way ticket to Qatar on December 9th. A little more than 2 weeks later after buying that one-way plane ticket, Pritchett was officially charged on December 26th with one count of aggravated kidnapping.
I want to give a huge thanks to you, our viewers, and our amazing sponsors like Upside. Upside is a super cool and free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries.
Cut it out. We don't listen. We don't care.
It still continues to post on social media. On January 4th, he posted an article from Houston news station KPRC, along with the caption, "Letter to the internet, it's finna be a ball. Let the show begin, hashtag Houston, Texas. Let me show you how to take monsters down the hashtag smooth way. You see it says accused, right? Don't worry, LOL. I'm finna give you the details on here and in the court of law. They're gonna regret effing with me like I'm just some goofy or some. Oh, and I got the best lawyer in Houston." A day later, he posted a video with the victims as they were ATV riding. That video was captioned tagging Houston PD as he wrote in part, "We have a case here of popular YouTuber Corey SSG kidnapping 2 white girls, and he's currently on the run in Dubai, I think. IDK, but yeah, the FBI should be after him." A pretty wild case that is now ranging across 2 completely different countries that are thousands of miles away from one another. So let's bring on retired FBI agent Colin Schmidt to get his thoughts on this. Colin, thank you so much for joining me today. You know, what is your reaction to this case, from Pritchett's alleged erratic behavior to trapping these 2 women allegedly in his car and leaving them stranded on the side of the road, then later fleeing off to Qatar?
Well, I think the first thing for investigators is kind of look at the totality of the circumstances and look at the big picture, as well as look at credibility of who the complainants are, as well as what's really going on here between these 2 people. And that's based upon the recent instances of YouTubers or bloggers or social media influencers faking their own kidnappings. So to prevent a waste of resources, they have to just take a step back and kind of look at the big picture. And then, of course, if there is some merit to this, then they're going to have to kind of dig in and find out exactly what really went on between these 2.
And investigators also say that, you know, GPS data from Life 360, which was an app that was on one of the women's phones, that helped corroborate their story. Talk to me about how investigators use that type of data to kind of piece together, or at least verify these types of allegations.
Well, in this case, the victim made it easy for law enforcement to track her because they did have the Life 360 app on there. I'm familiar with the app. It's fantastic. And I have used it with my kids as well. So if that wasn't on there, the first step with all these cases, and even if it's a bank robbery or a fraud case, is going to be the phones, and to look in to see if there's any GPS data, tracking data in that phone to find out and to corroborate what the victim is saying that the assailant did.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, unclear right now, but from what we do know now, do you think the erratic behavior on Pritchett's behalf might have been someone actually after him, as he had told these women allegedly, or do you think there's another reason, possibly like drugs, that kind of made him act erratically during this whole incident?
Well, with the limited information, available, you'd be speculating on why he was acting so erratic. So when somebody's acting erratic, there's a catalyst or some sort of antecedent that make them do that. So either it's something internal or external, and that's one thing that's going to come out, so to speak, in the wash as the investigators do their investigation and start talking to people and find out why he was behaving in such an odd manner. And then the fact that he fled to Qatar, which is kind of an unusual country to go to, because of it.
Listen, very unusual. Do your homework on Qatar. Listen, Qatar is across the water from Dubai. All right. The only reason I know that is because of my prior job, and they have one of the biggest installations over there that you could possibly have, and it's a big hub. I mean, it is kind of like a really nice place, but it's not a place that you go and just live unless you're from that country. Like, in countries like that, they treat the social status like very important. Okay, like like in those countries, the people who do like the construction, the waitressing, the like some like any job that you would like mentally consider like a lower level job, the third world country people do those jobs, and people who move into that country do those jobs because their country that they moved from is so bad that they come over there and they have to do those kind of jobs. But the people who are actually from there, like actual Qataris, like actual citizens, they're one of those countries that pay the citizens to live there. So it is one of those countries. It's one of those countries that has like Lamborghinis and you know things and like that, like so on the side of the road, like don't really care. But then it's like you still see a poverty level just so hard to even look at that it's like, you know, as an American, I'm sure you would be just fine, but I couldn't see one person just going over there and staying there forever. It would be difficult. The people are very nice, you know, and you know it's a different kind of food, and they have malls and things like that where it looks just like our mall and probably even better and things like that. But I don't know. I just think it's a weird place. He should have just went to Dubai, or you know, maybe he went there because of statues. I don't know. It's confusing.
He speaks Arabic. That you know, does he have some sort of connection to that country?
Yeah, and I was also, going to ask you what your thoughts are on him fleeing to Qatar. What all goes into extraditing a kidnapping suspect? And in your opinion, how long do you think it'll take before he's actually back in the United States?
Well, the first thing is if we have extradition with Qatar, I'm not aware whether we do or don't for that particular crime, because extradition is crime specific. Some crimes are extraditable, some aren't. And then the extradition process is generally very long, and it takes at least a year to 2 years. Generally, what the authorities do is they just have the country expel or deport the person that's there. It's a much faster process, unless the person has some sort of citizenship with that country. And I doubt this gentleman has any citizenship with Qatar.
And do you think that trip was planned this whole time, or do you think he kind of did it as an escape to escape those now criminal charges that he's facing? Because I can't imagine, leaving your children behind to go start a new life in a completely different country and just, leave them behind in Texas.
Well, if he was going to Mexico, I would say there wasn't a lot of thought put into it, because obviously it's just right over the border. But to take an international flight, I mean, you have to fly through an international hub, whether it be Houston or Los Angeles or New York, and then make a couple of connections to get to Qatar. So, and then, of course, the flight itself is pretty expensive. And then there is going to be some scrutiny on him on when he lands through the authorities there in Qatar. So there had to be some sort of planning to go into it, because like I said, he's just not driving his car over the border going down to Mexicali. He's going to a foreign country, and it's approximately an 18-hour flight.
Yeah, and booking that one-way ticket as well too. I can't even imagine kind of going back to this alleged crime as well. Can't imagine what it was like for these two women who were stranded on that highway until they were able to flag down a driver who eventually called 911, and then authorities arrived as well too. But, kind of going back to the overall alleged offense in this case, what do you kind of make of just leaving two women stranded on a highway, and then just again fleeing off to a completely different country?
Well, that tells me that there wasn't much thought put into this. It sounds more like this was an impulse crime. He was reacting to some sort of something maybe the women had done to him, or vice versa, and this was reaction, and he didn't think it through. And then I think finally it kind of dawned on him that what he had done is basically going to land him in jail, and he essentially panicked. Kicked him out or put him on the side of the road, and then obviously left the country. So he's definitely has a lot going on inside his head, and this case is only going to probably get stranger as the investigators dig in.
Yeah, and you mentioned something earlier in our discussion, just about his whole social media persona, which is kind of another added layer to this whole entire story. Pritchett has millions of followers across different social media platforms, but then you tack on this alleged behavior and this alleged or this crime as well too. What do you make of all of that, given that he was this kind of apparent rise on social media, and then he got kind of famous as well too, doing family content, and then for this to kind of come out? What do you make of just kind of that Jekyll and Hyde situation that we're kind of seeing all unfold?
Well, that's from where I started with this, that because of his social media presence, law enforcement was going to have to kind of dig in and kind of determine what the motive behind this was. Maybe he had no intent of harming these women. He was just doing this for the classic clicks. Or, like I said, he had something going on in his life that made him panic. But it seems like there's such in society now, there's such a intense pressure to get quote unquote clicks that we see these social media people doing some amazingly stupid and abhorrent things. And frankly, I think law enforcement and the society as a whole is really kind of getting tired of it, and the hammer is starting to fall on these people for their behaviors.
Now, say Pritchett makes it back to the United States, he's facing this kidnapping charge. How long of a potential sentence or punishment do you think that he could be facing now?
Well, if the federal authorities get involved, I believe you could get up to life in prison for kidnapping. So depending on the circumstances and if it's provable, in this case, he didn't take the victims over state lines. So there is an argument that it's not a federal crime. However, there is a kidnapping statute in Texas. So, and Texas has a pretty aggressive law enforcement culture there. So he's going to be facing some jail time if it turns out that this was legitimate kidnapping and these women are willing to testify.
All right. Well, Colin, I want to thank you so much for joining me and giving me insight into this case. Before we sign you off, though, anything else you'd like to add?
All right, man. I don't know. It sound like Buddy was just tweaking. I'm not condoning his behavior. That's not what I'm doing, but it sounded like he was just tweaking, and then for him to be hanging out with the girls the next day, like, was y'all really like in danger? Was you terrified? Like, what is y'all on? What you mean? And then he makes this post. Why didn't the police just go get him right then? If he made a post saying we riding ATVs, and this was after the police was called, I don't know, that low key just confused me. It low key was irritating. Like, what you mean? What you mean y'all was hanging out together the next day? Like, what? That makes no sense, bruh. That makes no sense, bro.